So in the process of really like figuring out purpose and living the purpose day to day, day in and day out, there's a couple things that have been really, really helpful for me, like real support. And as I was reflecting on my day today, I'm coming home from a event. It's like a bit more of a political event. I'm not a fan of either of the political systems or political parties. I'm a fan of changing it. That's part of my purpose. But I was reflecting on this as I was like just driving out of the city. And it's like everything is green here and the sun is setting. And it was just one of those moments where, you know, it was like the word was enchanting. It was just like vivid green and all these colors. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Being on the front lines, like really building out the movement that is disrupting education, that is disrupting culture. You know, it's everything I work on. This podcast is part of it. And I had 3 different moments today of what I would call real support, and I'm going to document them here because I know little bits and pieces of them will stick with you, and you can start to see this in your own life, because there's some things that they're like seeds and they stick with us, and you might see it right away, or it might be like 2 years from now that this or whatever you get from this will stick with you and it will like come to fruition. So the first was from way earlier today. I surround myself with I would call it an inner circle of individuals who will hold each other to the highest standard that we can. And if you don't have that in your life, and if you want that, I mean, reach out. Like, I'm not going to just, you know, if we never chatted before, you know, it takes time to get into an inner circle of sorts, but I can help you come up with ideas and see like what would make sense in terms of you having those types of relationships. So there's one guy I was talking to in particular today on just really like, it was like a really nice check-in in terms of where I'm at in terms of building everything. And to be able to like, he was able to give like an outside perspective where sometimes when you're so in the mud or on the front lines, like you don't see everything that you need to see. And we were on the phone for like an hour. And it was so cool because he knows me, my wife Jessica as well, and just what we're building and everything. And we work together on a lot of things. And to have people like that in your life who are genuinely looking out for you and genuinely helpful. Like, I can count on 2 hands the amount of people that I would really see, like, that I really trust at that level. And it's not like a blind trust. It's a, you know, it's like if they say something, it's like I still listen with discernment. But nonetheless, to have people in your corner who you know are like tried and true, that's huge. That's huge in terms of real support. And to just be able to talk through things, and when you see there's like the stuff you know you got to do, to come up with like a battle plan for that, and that's huge. So that was like one of the ways my day started. And then midday, I was looking at so Jessica and I, right, we got our homestead, and you know it's stuff that we work on occasionally. Like, Jess is the manager of the homestead, and for myself, you know, I'm more focused on business, growing the community, that kind of thing. You know, finding the people that see that the world is messed up and they genuinely want to do something about it, have real solutions. But every once in a while, Jessica needs help with something, and, you know, I'll take a little break from work. And so I'm hanging out with Aristotle, our son. He's 7.5 months old now, somewhere around there. And so we were moving these little chicks that we got out into the stable because they need more space, and they're just ready for it. They can handle being in cold temperatures, whatever. And it was so fun because this is now another example of real support. Is it's so funny. So Aristotle, he's 7 months old. He still wears diapers. You know, he just little little baby, toddler, whatever toddler is. I don't know. He's young, but he's still like a little beast kid, you know. And I'd say he's developing very well. He's very aware, and it's really fun to see. So whenever we're doing something, either I'll be doing the activity and then Jessica will be holding him, or Jessica will do the activity and I'll hold him. And it's really important to us to build his vocabulary very effectively from an early age. I mean, since he's been in the womb, that's been our intention. There's a lot, and I'll make future podcasts on this, but Jessica and I wrote in our recent newsletter the idea of 60 million words based on the book 30 Million Words by Dana Susskind. And as we do things, I will explain like everything to Aristotle. So one part was we have these like green fern bushes around our garden, and as Jessica was moving everything, we walked over and I just plucked a little bit off the fern and I put it in Aristotle's hand, and he held onto the thing for like 20 minutes, and it was so funny. He's like looking at it and I'm explaining it to him, and I'm just noticing how there's so much vocabulary you can explain to a kid. And if you really think about it and you were a kid, wouldn't you want the adults around you to explain things to you? Even if you didn't understand it, how do you end up understanding it? It's because it's just explained to you over and over and over. And you literally download the words. And now the way that we teach Aristotle is also very specifically. I mean, we use TechnoTutor, so that way he has not just the sounds, but also then the symbols and the spelling and all of that. So, I mean, he's going to be an elite kid. Like, no doubt about it. This is history in the making, and we have plenty of other families that do this exact same thing. But I'm educating him and really supporting him. And it was so funny because this doesn't even necessarily like relate to exactly this, but it was funny. I've been putting him like on my shoulders recently, like a piggyback ride kind of, but like he's on the back of my neck sort of. And I was like, okay, Aristotle, I'm gonna put you up here. Okay, now don't pee. It was so fun. Like I was half joking, but literally like 20 seconds later, it's just it's like straight up warm liquid on the back of my neck. So funny, because it's like it just is what it is. Like it's just so funny because I'm able to just shower right after it. It really doesn't matter to me. I just thought it was more like really, really funny because in that moment I just kept explaining to them. I was like, oh look, so you just peed, that means you just explain it all. And I thought of how so many times there will be these micro reactions that parents give, or that that we give, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. You're like, oh no, you peed on me, or oh you silly boy, or whatever. And it's like it's this whole character thing instead of just like literally explaining it. But it was just so funny to me because it's not every day you get peed on, and there's those little moments like that where later on in your life you look back and it's like, wow, like that's actually, like, it might seem so small, but those are like the moments that some of the moments where you laugh about, and you're able to just really enjoy the moment. It's like time slows down. You can really cherish that. And so that's a way where I found both I'm working to support him, but also in a way, kind of unintentionally, he's supporting me to notice like where are the dumb reactions that will come up for an adult that don't make sense at all. Like reacting to like a kid pissing and it getting on you or whatever. It's like that stuff's irrelevant. And I appreciate that so much, and I see that that's a real support is with the people around you. Again, whether it's like the inner circle, like I was alluding to earlier, or your family, or if you have kids, to really cherish those moments and the whole time through, like, be stable and explain things. So I was enjoying that a lot. And then one other thing, then this evening I was looking at this, and I'm doing my best to like really focus on creating like sound bites and stories and ideas that are a seed, so that as I have moments throughout my day where it's something that might seem as small as, whatever, explaining something to my son or chatting with, someone and getting real sport, but where it can do something for you, where it can start to open your mind so that you can start to see things in a new way. I'm not going to pretend like stories are the ultimate answer to everything. Like, there's a lot more to it, but stories are like a key that can start to unlock. And I'm seeing just how valuable of a skill that is. I mean, I've seen it for a long time, but even more to like build that muscle. So for you listening, I'm going to encourage you, like, one thing that I have found to be really great is I just have a note in my phone of just ongoing, like, little stories or moments of the day that I enjoy. And what ends up happening is, as you document them, and it's not like in depth, it's like maybe 1 or 2 sentences or a handful of words where you save it. And then over time, that ends up becoming it's like a frame by which you start to see reality, where you notice what's going on. And it's not like you're going through life now like, oh, I gotta get a story, okay, write it down. But it's more a general comprehending of your reality in a way that becomes supportive, not just for you, but for everyone around you. And I've noticed that has been really powerful, because like storytelling is so primal for humans. So here's the last part. I was reminded of this. I was reminded of it this evening. So I got invited to an event by one of my colleagues, and he's very involved politically and on the front lines with education, and just always out there meeting with people, really working on solutions grassroots, like really bringing power back to parents. Not giving our power away to the system, to the education system, all that. And he invited me to this political event, and I got flashbacks. It was so funny. Because we both went to I know I talked about this in a different episode, but I was reminded of the power of being together in person, in such a way where when you go to an event, there's like this energy that builds. And I was reminded of just how involved we got politically last year around this time. And the theme of this episode, which is real support, here's the last story I'll share. So again, this may be a resonant seed that activates something within you, and you're able to like carry this with you, where it like strengthens you and expands your ideas of what you can do. So where I live in Minnesota, they aimed to pass a mandate, so you had to get a jab in order to go into a restaurant downtown. And I don't live downtown anymore, but I've lived downtown for many years of my life, and I love downtown Minneapolis. But, I didn't get the jab. And so, and neither did my wife. And, she's pregnant, and we're like, hey, there's no research on this. And so we're just not going to get it. But then the pressure gets on you. And they say, okay, well, in order for you to go to a restaurant, you have to do this and wear a mask. But you don't have to wear a mask when you're sitting down. And it was just a lot of nonsense. And I remember seeing that. And this is when Jessica was pregnant with Aristotle. And I remember just realizing, it's best summed up in this quote, is the freedoms you sacrifice today are the ones your grandchildren will never know existed. And the first time I heard that quote, it just stuck with me. And I was like, okay, I'm seeing this front lines, like what's happening. And, I want the ability to just have more freedom, let's say. And so one day I made a Facebook post. I was like, hey, who's against this mandate? And I had like so many people reach out about being like, yeah, like, well, what do we do about it? What do we do about it? I was like, well, what I do know is if we can get everyone together in a room, that's going to be great. So I put together an event. And it was called like Stop the Mandate or something. And I had never coordinated any sort of thing like that. And I would say, it's like people would ask me like, oh, are you an activist? I'm like, no, I mean, I don't know if I look up the definition of activist, but I would not call myself an activist. I'm just a person who genuinely cares, and I know how to get people in a room, and I know how to focus on solutions, and I can facilitate a pretty good conversation. And it was so funny because we didn't have any organization. It was nothing. It was literally just, I know how to use social media and I know how to get people in a room. And so we put together an event. I put together a flyer, and we were going to meet at this co-working space. And it was actually going to be one of the last days before they implemented the mandate. And I said, no jab required. It's so funny because I got a phone call and a bunch of emails from the place where we were going to host it. It was our co-working space. And they're like, you can't have events on the weekend, and who's going to come? And they just really clamped down. And it was pretty intense because I put out the word, and we had 60, 70 people respond right away that they were going to come. And they're like, oh, can I invite my friends? Can I invite this group? I was like, wow, this is an amazing turnout. There's a lot of people who are like-minded. This is really valuable. Like, this is, again, back to the name of this podcast, purpose and reality. We're dealing with the reality with purpose, and you got a lot of people now paying attention and coming out. And it was so funny because then it was like last minute. It was a couple days beforehand. We had to switch. And in that moment, you can so easily go into like blame or like, oh, screw the co-working space. I'm paying my, payment, and they have a contract and whatever. It's like, I felt for a moment, I was like, I went into blame. It's like, oh, it's so annoying. But then I realized, okay, that's not going to do anything. And I just put out some messages to my community. They found another spot right away, and we had this big event, and it was so cool because we had, I don't even know how many people showed up, but it was at least 60, 70 people at this restaurant. And it was awesome because people come up and they're like, okay, what group runs this? Who's behind this? And they're like, it's literally just us together, like working on real practical solutions. And that was such a defining moment for me because I realized if you can just stay one or two steps ahead of everything, where you know how to get people together and create a movement. And then we actually brought in a guy who's running for governor who had the practicality of like, hey, this is actually what we can do about the situation. And, we had enough business owners and things in there. And it was like, you got to see straight up how the system worked. And it was so cool to me. And the takeaway that I implore you to get from this is take more responsibility. Go front lines, go cutting edge, go meet people, get off your ass, go out of your home, go talk to people, and go sell people on why we got to align our purpose. Create a world that's best for everyone. Change the political system. Change how we, have the laws. Change the policies. But not just to do it like those, like the talking heads or whatever. It's join what we're doing. Self-perfected, the principles, the 13 principles. Investigate technotutor. Understand what it means to equalize education so that everybody has the same programming, everyone has the same vocabulary. So that we can all have real conversations and it's not just this emotional bullshit. It's like, that's real support. And you get the real support by you yourself giving real support to your community. So figure out where you can go. Figure out if there's a Rotary Club that you can go volunteer with or go meet. Figure out if there's a Chamber of Commerce or go to local networking groups or, go find education meetups. And when you go to these events, go ask people what other events are you part of? What other groups are like this? And when you show up with a genuine desire to give, and what you're giving is the vision of having way more purpose and sorting out reality, you will find the people. We don't need everybody. Really, right now, we just need a new 1%. And that's the purpose I've given myself. And so those are some examples of just today. Like this evening, I had two really cool conversations with people. And one is a lady who's got kids, who's very interested in what we're doing, and she's got grandkids. And then another was a guy who, he runs a radio show, and he's, active he said he loved politics but hates politics. He said he loves politics because he wants the average person to get more involved and take more responsibility in their community. He said he hates politics because of how divisive it is and how the loudest people get the attention. And so if there's one thing you get from this episode is like, use this as empowerment to give yourself ideas of what you can go do to take more responsibility in your community and in the world. Because the world needs it bad. And as you go through your days, note what are the stories, what are the things, what are the ideas, what are the talking points that I can share with people. As you have that and you build that, and that takes on the compound effect, and you support others to do that, and you replicate that, it's really, really, really cool. And you're witnessing me mid-journey. Not even mid-journey. No, not that mid-journey. Mid-journey in the process of, all of us working together, changing the system. And it's a long haul. In 5 years, when we have insane amounts of money and insane influence and 100,000 people on board with this or more, people are going to ask, wow, how'd you do it? What did you think? What was the one breakthrough you had? There's no one breakthrough. It's this compilation of all of it working together and the combination. So go out there, do something with this. Don't just sit passively and listen to shit. Go now, use this as fuel.